What's going on, guys? This is your host, BIGKevin, here for the ModMyMods Meet the Modder podcast. Today we will be joined with one of the red-bearded dragons himself, the leprechaun. Mr. Gadget Joe himself, all the way over from the UK, will be joining us this afternoon. So thank you, everyone, for being here and being a part of the Meet the Modder podcast. This podcast is designed to share our knowledge of modding, the folks that are involved in it, and spread the wealth when it comes to the community and the PC gaming enthusiasts like myself and Gadget Joe. So without further ado, let's jump right on into it and meet the guest of honor. I present to thee the Redbeard himself, Mr. Gadget Joe. Thank you for being here, my friend. I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Well, I know that you and I have been talking for quite a bit. I know that you have built some pretty awesome rigs and some pretty fancy-dancy stuff, but for those of you who don't know who you are, can you explain, who are you, Mr. Redbeard, Mr. Beautiful man, by the way, which if you can't see this on the video and you're listening to it on the podcast, I'm sorry, because you are missing the glory of his beard. It is just so red and beautiful and like custom shaped and everything like that. Goodness gracious. So who are you? Where are you from? What do you do anyways?
My name's Joe. I'm from England, because someone has to be. I'm from a little town called Grimsby, which nobody knows, even when you're in England.
Grimsby? Yeah, where is that? Is that considered like no man's land of UK? Is that how that works?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's known as a fish port, so it stinks, basically. Now it's known for cars more than anything. Not cars that we can afford, but cars that we can all look at and say, oh, they look really nice, and then watch them go away to someone else.
Ah, I see. But they still reproduce about the same amount of stink as fish, so yeah. It's not really a lose-lose situation, really. All right, Joe. Well, obviously you have a name, you have a nickname, Mr. Gadget Joe, and I kind of wanted to dive into that a little bit. Obviously, your face and your beard has been part of the logo for quite some time, but what does the whole Gadget Joe thing come from, and how did you start doing that?
It's the backstory to it is actually completely different to what you would expect it to be, because I started off on YouTube doing a fish keeping channel called Fish and Tips.
Oh,
and
really?
It was basically about how to do water changes, how to set up filters, to do all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it never really took off, and then I wanted to do something that was a bit more of what I'm into, which is technology. I used to enter a lot of the modding competitions when I was younger. Back in the day when a modded computer was glow in the dark acrylic and springs around your tubing. And I've always been into technology. So the reason that I thought I'm going to do it now is because actually I wanted to. Being a bit selfish back in the day was, my wife's actually pretty poorly. She's disabled. She's very ill. And I wanted to do something because I can't go out to work because I'm a carer. So I wanted to do something that would basically give me something to do and hopefully ultimately become a job that I can do from home. So I started doing it. I tried to do all, but very similar to this, where I did like Meet the Modders to start with, where I spoke to people that were in the industry, showed off their computers, and then I started doing reviews. And then I got more and more companies interested as it started to grow. It was a bit of a slow growth. Obviously, some channels they go flying up instantly. But mine, I'm sitting at about 8,000 subscribers, which is mind blowing, really, when you think about it. But it's never been one to grow. So I've been doing the reviews and I've been practicing and I've been getting better at them and upgrading my equipment over the time and getting more sponsors and doing builds, and just basically growing it from that. So it went from being something that I wanted to do as a job to something I was doing more of a hobby. And that's pretty much where I'm at now. Obviously, I've started a new channel, which I'll talk about in a bit. But Gadget Joe is primarily a review site. So I would look at reviewing cases, a lot of cases. I'm sick of seeing cases now. It's they all are the same. They all come in, they say, "Oh, and this is like this case, and it fits all these fans, and it's got glass on it," and it's a bit difficult to do. So you sort of lose your motivation in it, which is why I started doing more in mods myself, like building up things. And when I did the desk build, Alter Ego, that's really where I sort of got my name into modding, and companies started to sort of see what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, yeah.
No kidding. No kidding. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about with the springs on the tubing, now I remember that because I had springs on my tubing too. Those were anti-kink coils, if you remember so well, especially back then. Oh man, anti-kink coils, well, like that was the way to go.
Well, you get bonus points if you got one that matched the color of the acrylic.
Absolutely. You get the UV kink coils that were like, orange or blue, or even the green ones, because I had the green. I had the whole black and green theme, which was, that was like standard issue procedure for the 90s and 2000s, the Fast and the Furious black Honda Civic with green underglow. Yeah, let's put that in everything. Whether it's computers, whether it's guns, whether it doesn't matter, it was all, that was the rage. But it's
you don't have the LEDs like you do now. It wasn't, you mod a computer now and you can do endless things to it. Some people that are in the industry have made Millennium Falcons out of stuff and all sorts, and it's just crazy. But back then, obviously, it was very limited, especially working with those little old cathode lights.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get the wiring, and that's pretty much all you could do. And then you just had to be really nice to the judges and hope that they'd let you win.
Right. Yep. Because I mean, back in that day, like the glowy fancy colors like you see behind me and stuff like that wasn't really like a thing. Like that wasn't mainstream like it is now. You had
it was RGB, but it was just literally red, green, or blue.
That was it. You only had one, or you did UV, and if you did UV, it was going to be purple. Yeah, and that was just okay. Yep. All right. Everybody and their mom knows what UV looks like. Doesn't matter what color inside is. It's still purple. Like it doesn't matter, But it's neat to hear you say that too, because I'm kind of sort of to our previous guest that we had on the show. You went from taking a situation that's not the greatest. Being dealt those cards and having somebody that's sick in your family is not an easy thing to deal with at all, in any way, shape, or form, and especially funds or even maintaining sanity. Really, it can be very difficult at times. And so, picking a PC and building PCs and the adult Legos, as I call them, is kind of relaxing at times. It can be incredibly frustrating. Don't get me wrong. You fry a $700 motherboard, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be upset. That, no questions asked. However, there is something to be said when you can build something, again, like what you see behind me. I know you don't necessarily see that on the podcast. I get it. I understand. But if you do, head on over to ModMyMods.com. You'll head over to our social pages. We have links to all that stuff. And our YouTube page will have this podcast online for you to view as well. But if you haven't seen some of the builds that we have on display, what we have behind me, I have the Torque case, I have the Be Quiet Light Wings, and then I have Ice Cries Lauf as well. But again, these are PCs that are crazy modded, and the mods that we did now, only like a couple years ago, are okay. Now, they're all right. They're not. Let's put it this way: there's nothing to write home about. Okay, they're clean, they're nice looking, but to be honest with you, anybody really could do that, and that's okay, because that's kind of what we do as ModMyMods. Is we want to show you guys the mods that you can do yourselves. I mean, these crazy PCs you can do. I'm not gonna say that that's for everybody though, because I mean, I'll be honest with you, Battle of Hoth, you're not just gonna pick that up. Stefan with his X-Wing build, you're not just gonna be able to do that just first try willy-nilly. That's not how it works. Gadget Joe, I think, will attest to, he's been doing it for long enough that he knows how to fry things and break them and what not to do, at least kind of, sort of, for the most part.
Don't mean you don't make mistakes still, though.
Yeah.
There's been a few times when I put a build together and I've got it all sorted, and then I've realised I've left the I/O plate out.
Oh, I mean, that's if you haven't done that, you haven't lived.
Yeah,
that's you haven't built a PC, really.
My worst one was it was last year, and I was building a computer for someone else, and I got it all set up, and I couldn't work out why it wasn't starting. I realised I'd not put my RAM in, of all things. Was looking for it for ages, and I was convinced I knew I'd got it. And then I was ringing him, and I said, "You did bring it, didn't you?" And then so I drove round to his house, and we looked around, and we couldn't find it anywhere. He was like, "Yeah, I've got it. I've got the receipts. I've got the packages." The packaging was at my house, so I was like, "Right, so it's here." And I was like, "I can't find it." So a week went by, and then I washed one of my hoodies, and the RAM was in the pocket.
Oh no!
So I had to do a nice phone call to him and say, "I found your RAM and it's really clean."
The question is,
did it actually work?
It worked, right? It worked.
It still worked, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. See, and
I don't know how.
Well, I mean, it's the misconception that water and electronics are bad for each other. They are. Don't get me wrong. Water.
Only when there's a charge going through it.
That's right. I mean, the electricity has to bridge the gap. If it can't bridge the gap between positive and negative, you're good. And so, because those sticks weren't, plugged in, or you didn't throw the motherboard in the wash with the hoodie, I think you're in good shape. You're doing pretty good.
Well, it was a bit of a relief when I turned it on and it actually worked.
Well, yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, that's it does happen where you will either spill water on something, or something will go awry, and it for some reason works.
Yeah, I've reviewed a power supply before for. It was a Thermaltake one. I had it on my desk, on the table, I was doing all the B-roll for it, all the fancy stuff. Didn't realise that I'd left my drink next to it. Then it just went all over it. But I didn't realise, so I took the drink, assuming the cup was empty, went to try it the next day when I was plugging it in, and it just went boom everywhere. I was like, oh. So yeah, just because you might know what you're doing, don't mean you can't make mistakes, because complacency happens very easily.
Yes, it does. That is a very well put statement. Once you get comfortable with being around computers, $1,000 pieces of equipment and stuff like that, you kind of sometimes forget where you came from, and need to check yourself. Really, because, it's not cheap anymore. Not that it was cheap to begin with, but you're talking about something that's you got thousands of hours into, and you just accidentally knocked it off the table. That happens. Happens to the best of us. So, I have seen a TV and I've seen a PC go off the edge of during a show, and that was That was enough for me to go, okay, I don't ever want to be put in that position, ever. So just make sure that that doesn't happen, or can't happen, or try our best to make sure that it doesn't happen. But that being said, you have got some PCs that you've put together, some awesome things that you've done. And besides PCs, well, actually, let's go back to the PCs. What has been probably the most challenging thing that you've actually had to put together? One of the most challenging mods, one of the most frustrating, one of the, one of the most satisfying, whatever it might be.
Going back to the alter ego desk, the idea was, because I used to be a carpenter, so I've always been quite good with wood. So I thought to myself, I'm going to make a desk PC. I had all these ideas. I put it up in SketchUp and made it look fancy, and then it come to the reality of it. And I've never made a desk PC before, and it was an absolute nightmare. It was just trying to get things to work out right, and then I put it in different compartments. So rather than having it all in one, I wanted to try and do it so all the parts of the desk could be seen as a computer, which in theory is good. But then when I put it in and I'm going through like 12 foot of tubing per run, and I'm wondering why the pump isn't powerful enough to put it up onto the motherboard, and it's there was a lot of challenges, and I do want to do another desk PC again soon, but I'll probably go a bit more along the style of what Voss did, and keep it all contained. Because I made a lot of mistakes that I'm going to learn from, that I would never do again. But the end result, it looked good when it was done. It just didn't last very long.
Well, for those of you who haven't seen this particular desk PC, we'll put links in the description below, and you'll be able to get that on our website here and on the podcast information. Obviously, as much as I humanly possibly can, I'll share this build, because to be perfectly honest with you, I'm sure I've seen it. I just honestly don't remember right off the top of my head which one it looks like. And, it's funny that you say about the learning from experience and everything like that, because, building your first PC is not always easy. Especially when you want to do like water cooling and do all this cool stuff, and you think you're, big dog because you got RGB fans and stuff like that. Congratulations. You spent $140 on RGB, and then you fried it because you plugged it into the 12 volt instead of the 5. Stuff like that happens, and it's neat to hear you be so humble about some of the mistakes that you've made, because that's kind of what this whole podcast is about, is to hear the learning experiences that everyone has had, with modding and building PCs. Not everybody is going to just go, yeah, I can build desk, kind of like you can, or you did, and when in theory, it's just having a drive and having a passion that, in the end will be something that you're proud of. It might not necessarily be the end product. It might be the journey on the way there, right? I mean, the PC is awesome. Gaming on the PC is super cool, but I never thought that I would hand paint a 3D printed, or not even a 3D printed, a resin cast model, and then use it as a part to a reservoir inside of a PC. Like, ever. But for some reason, I thought that was a good idea. And after learning however many hours go into each type of project, like the desk that you put together, you start to learn things.
Yeah. Well, it took 8 months to get the desk done.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of it's down to, similar to what you said before, it's circumstantial, because obviously I don't get any money from Gadget Joe. I've in the whole time I've had it running, I've probably had about £100 in ad revenue from it. And we're on a low income because I can't work. I'm obviously a carer for my wife, and I've got loads of girls at home, so it's everything. I do everything at a budget, and that's why it took so long. But then I think actually it's helped me adapt to things quite well, because some people. Now, I'm not going against any of the channels. Obviously, there's a lot of channels out there that have got money to plough stupid amount of stuff into their builds, and they can knock them out one a week, and because they've just got the parts lying there. And while they look fantastic, they look amazing, I think there's something a bit more from someone that's done it from basically next to nothing. And it's good because, like I've worked with wood, and I just automatically thought, I can make a desk and I can build a PC. Let's put them together. Obviously, I found out the hard way it's not as easy as that, but it doesn't stop me trying, and I'd always promote anybody to try it because you might surprise yourself.
That is so well said. That is that's exactly how we feel here at Mods. We try and tell the customers as much as we humanly possibly can. Hey, just call us ahead of time. Let us know. Like, tell me what you're doing. That way you can buy the right stuff. That way you're not upset and you don't have this unfortunate experience of, that water block doesn't fit. Or for some reason you ordered this RAM and it's not the right megahertz and so your PC won't boot. Or whatever, and a lot of that is by trial and error, but the bigger part of this is that you're doing it on a budget, and doing it on a budget can be almost harder to actually get the right parts that will work together. Just for the simple fact that the 16 gigs of RAM that Munchkin makes will work if you get the right megahertz, or the right voltage or the right timing or whatever, but you don't necessarily know that unless you do some research, unless you learn, unless you educate yourself, right? And again, the fact that you're able to do this on a budget and do this, out of hand and out of pocket, is incredible, because a lot of people don't necessarily understand, like, a lot of the folks that put these builds together, whether they're building it for themselves or they're building it for a customer or whoever, a lot of the manufacturers will basically just use the social media to gain traction on that particular product in that build for whatever time period that they want to, without compensation. It's just more along the lines of, here's the product, right? That is the compensation. So the product is the compensation, I should say. It's not necessarily without compensation. I mean, more along the lines of, it's not just, they're not going to pay you to do that, right? They don't even pay their employees to do that, right? They're giving it to whoever to post about it to actually get it done. And it stinks because some of the smaller channels and stuff like that, like yourself, like us, like Joff, like, we don't necessarily get the support that some of the bigger people do, and it's just because of the fish that we are. We're not as big as some of the other folks, which isn't to say that we're not as good, it just might be we haven't been heard yet, right? And that's also, again, part of what this podcast is all about, is to say, like, Gadget Joe, like, I knew of you, but I think this is one of the first times that you and I have actually, like, really back and forth talked to each other, where we've been in the modding community for God knows how long. Hell, you probably bought parts for me back when I was working at that hellhole, back in back in 2000, the name we shall not speak of. So it's kind of neat to be able to share this with you, and to be able to go back and forth and talk about, there's different experiences that we've had with each other, especially when it comes to computer modding. So you can maybe give a little bit of hope and a little bit of encouragement to those who haven't done it yet, and that want to, and who may be just scared. Now, that being said, what would you say to somebody who's just starting off? Anybody that's just getting into PC building or water cooling or whatever it is, what is your advice? One tip, one trick from Joe, Mr. Gadget Joe.
I get asked this quite a lot, actually, from Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, I get messages saying, "Oh, I want to build a computer, but I can't afford it. What graphics card should I go and all this lot?" But I always say to them, "Well, what? Just think of what you want to do with it. Basically, if you want to just go on it and game and play a bit of COD on it or something like that, you don't need all the latest stuff." And I've said this on the live streams that you do on ModMyMods on a Tuesday before, but building computers at the moment is insanely difficult. Not because of how putting them together is quite easy, and you can just go on a YouTube video and watch how to do it. A lot of it is plug and play, but getting hold of the parts basically is a nightmare at the moment because of the shortages of the GPUs, because of the processors and all that, and it's quite confusing. And I've had people say to me, "Where do you even start? I've got an X470, X570, an B550, all these motherboards," and you can just look at it, and people just lose themselves. And I think that is quite off-putting. And there's a lot of people that won't even bother. They say, "Oh yeah, they'll come in with good intentions, and they'll have a decent budget, and they'll probably say I have £700-800, and because they've played on consoles for so long, £700-800 is more than a console, and you'd think that would get you a good PC, and it can do. You're not gonna get as good a PC nowadays if you go in new parts as you would have done, say, 2 years ago, because of the way things are. But the used market for graphics card, because a lot of people just upgrade their components to say they've got the latest thing, and they'll sell their old stuff for next to nothing. So it's always worth checking out on like local selling pages and stuff. But just if you're gonna do it, do it. Don't be put off by all the latest stuff, because you don't need that. My system itself, I've been running my system for a while now, and I do all my video editing on it, and I do everything like that. And it's a relatively old system. I'm still running on 16 gigabyte RAM. And yeah, it sometimes struggles, but you don't need 64 gig of DDR5 and all this lot. So if you want to go into not console, sorry, if you want to go into PC gaming, PC building, anything like that, just do it. There's loads of people in the industry that you can just speak to. There's loads of Facebook groups that you can go onto and say, "Look, I've got a budget of 500. I've got a budget of 1,000. Some people have got a budget of 3,000 or 4,000." And you'll be surprised how many people will go out their way to help you find something. There's a lot of toxic people in the industry, and it's the same with any industry. But you'll get people making comments and, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that." Ignore them. I've learned over doing this Gadget Joe, but I've gained a lot of enemies. I've rubbed a few people up the wrong way, because I tend to say it as it is, and I've rubbed a few companies up the wrong way because I say it as it is. I've had things sent to me. "Oh, can you do a review on this?" "Yeah, okay." And I've said in the review that it's rubbish, and like, whoa, you can't do that. And I'm like, "Well, you asked for my review on it." But if you're going to do it, if you want to get into computing, just do it. You don't need a 3090. You don't need a 3080. Start off with something small. You can pick up an RX 480 even for probably about 60-70 quid from your local shops and stuff.
Yeah.
And that will do you absolutely fine. And don't worry about it looking fantastic. Don't worry about cable management, because I still suck at cable management. I hate cable management. I shove everything. I'm one of those that gets it all finished, and then, like when you get your suitcase and you're trying to ram it all in. That's what I do. And I hope that no one ever has to see the back.
Yep, I understand. I get it. I think that's actually very well said, because a lot of people kind of have that misconception that, "Oh, well, I can buy a console for $400, so why would I can't build a PC for $400, so why would I do that?" And
Yeah.
they're not wrong.
It's a valid argument.
Yeah.
It is a valid argument, but because I'm not. I know there's a common misconception is that PC gamers, PC enthusiasts hate consoles, and theoretically, yeah, that's right. But I play on this thing more than I play on my computer.
Oh, that's
I
a
mean, it's not a
Switch.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
No, it's a little emulator thing.
Oh, perfect.
But I play with that sort of stuff more
Mm-hmm.
than I do my computer because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally just plug and play. And a computer isn't like that because there's so much more to it. But if you want to go into the argument of why you go for a PC, it's because of the extra stuff that you can do. But to someone that's new to it, it's like saying, "Oh, you've got two cars in front of you, and you've got yourself a, I don't know if you've got Ford Fiestas or anything like that over there. It's just like a little basic car,
Yep.
and then you've got a Ferrari next to it, and you can say to them, "All right, well, this one costs like 20 times the amount of that, and it goes loads faster," and you'd be like, "Well, I'll just go for the cheap one because I can't afford them."
Yeah, of course, of course. No, I that's a very good analogy because your budget car is going to be just fine. It's going to get you from A to B and everything like that. But I mean, hey, who doesn't like a Ferrari?
Exactly.
And there's something to be said about what you mentioned earlier with like the fads of PC building, and I kind of wanted to touch on that with you a little bit because I have started to experience that as well. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old and there's more gray coming in on this beard. Yeah. But these dang whippersnappers out here with their RGBs and their glass cases, it's honestly all a bunch of trash. And that's just, again, it's old school me, but you don't necessarily need all of this craziness to have fun on a computer. But you also have to have the right expectations, right? You buy an Xbox One, right? A Series 1, not even like a good one, not even like the mini PC thing, like the trash all-in-one console, right? It's not going to do more than 60 frames a second, if that ever. Okay? Ever. So, if you kind of already know that, because you already know that it's only $400, you could go buy a $600 one, and then if you have 4K TV, okay, cool. But when it comes to computers and stuff like that, that's not exactly the case. You can buy a computer... Or not buy a computer, but buy all the parts for a computer, put it together, and still have it play a lot better than that Xbox would. Playing the same games at the same type of resolution. Now, that being said, you also do have to think about the customizability of this computer and how that it's not just a plug-and-play type of thing. It is to an extent, but it's kind of like a Lego. You don't just like pull it out of the box and you're like, oh, cool, SpaceX rocket's already built together. No, it comes in a box. It's like this big and you got to put the shit together, right? I mean, it's the same thing with a PC. Android versus Apple, right? Do you want to be able to customize it and do a whole bunch of extra crap with it? Yes? Okay, well then go buy yourself a PC. Does it cost more? Yep, bet your ass it does. But do you want the ease of customizability and you just want it to work? That's fine. That's going to cost you triple. Sorry, that's Apple's rules, not my rules. Don't know what to tell you. Sorry. Don't know what to tell you. It's just the way it is, my friends. That's just the way it is. Now, that being said, all of the folks that are listening that haven't built a PC... Damn, somebody's got a loud exhaust near you. Wow. They allow that in the UK? I thought they were like super strict about that stuff. You guys can't have fun over there.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Absolutely everywhere.
Oh.
Or you get little mopeds that sound like hair dryers being choked.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. I mean, they weren't very fast in GTA, so I can't imagine they're very fast in the UK. Well, that being said, I encourage everybody that is listening to the podcast to go build your first PC if you haven't, because it is not that difficult to do. It definitely will give you a lot more joy than just playing on a PlayStation or an Xbox, and especially when you can do whatever you want to with it. You can do whatever you want, I mean...
You can say you built that.
That's right. And if you make it
There's nothing more satisfying than it actually working. There's nothing more scary and there's nothing more satisfying than pressing a power button for the first time.
I mean,
And hiding.
if you don't know what a butthole pucker is, that is definitely one, and that will teach you what it is very quickly. When you go, oh yeah, sweet, oh my god, that's $2,000 worth of crap that I'm just about to hit power to, and if I did anything wrong, it's all gonna go woof.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. And your heart skips a little bit. You know, it's a feeling. It's kind of like jumping out of a plane, I would say. I don't know.
I think if more people, if companies spent more time making things that are essential, like power headers and stuff, I hate them because you get used to working with a motherboard, like when I do, because I do a lot of changing hardware. I get used to a motherboard, so the power headers are all fine, and then I'll go and do it on another one, and it's all completely different, and I'm like, why ain't it working? And everything should just be modular, rather than focusing on 17 different kinds of fans that stick to your side of your nan's car or anything like that. It's just give us what we want, basically, because they're just focusing on trying to make it look pretty, and you can make anything look pretty, but that's just my opinion. I think it's because I've spent so long. I get stuff in to review. Like with me, I get fans. I've got in my shed. I counted the other day when I sorted it out. I've got 644 fans. and and I was like, right, okay. The difference is they all do exactly the same thing, but they all light up slightly different. And if you've never dealt with RGB software, maybe stay away from that if you're looking into getting your first baked gaming PC, because it's all the same stuff, but RGB software is a devil's work.
Yes. It's the AIDS of PCs. Seriously.
Yeah, like, because they go. There's no such thing as blue. As like, I don't know, some daft. I can't even think of all the colours. I'm partially colourblind on some colours, so it's no point. But
the RGB software is horrid for any company. And the only reason that it's horrid for any company, and pretty much all companies, is because none of them play nicely together. Of them. None of them. You know what plays nicely together? Completely removing it. Just taking it all out. Or spending an unbelievable amount of money on Aqua Computer stuff and converting it all to Aqua Computer. Then it works. Everything will work fine. You'll get the right adapter thingies. You can tell it how many LEDs it has. You can set up with like 800 different little commands on it. Good to go. But it also costs you 5 times the amount that it would have normally.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, definitely stay away from RGB if it's your first build. You don't need flashy colors.
No, that's the thing. And a lot of you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, and you search up PCs and modding and stuff like that, and you get the big names. I'm not one to drop names, and I've got nothing against them because some of them are my good friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they are. But you look at, if you break down some of the builds that they do, and it costs £10,000 for this PC. It sets unrealistic expectations. You
can't see this on the that one right there, which is Hoth. I can't move my camera very far. Or any of these PCs. I know you guys can't see it on the podcast, but again, head on over to our YouTube page and you can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, all these PCs, like, I can't afford any of this shit. Are you kidding me? Are you joking, right? Like, you think I actually get a chance to bring home a 3960X? What? No. That's insane. Like, no, I get this Surface that's right here. That's my side laptop that I use to help with certain things, and then all this other stuff does work stuff. Like, so
it does. It's expectations for a new mod for someone getting into computers. It's confusing. It's a bit scary. It's unrealistic. You think, oh, I'm going to go into it and I'm going to make a computer that looks like one that's been made by Stuart Tonks, and
yeah,
I've got a budget of 800 quid, and you're like, no, it's not going to really turn out like that. But it doesn't mean don't try it. Just there's nothing wrong with second hand. Even second hand mining cars, such a bad press about them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't use them because they've been burnt out. No, they're not. They're fine.
I mean, if it hasn't overheated and it's been running at an optimal temperature, not anything crazy hot, like, whatever. Just replace the thermal paste, replace the thermal pads, call it a day. You're fine. Like, it's just, and again, if you're budget building something anyways, you get what, an R9, an R7, something cheap, right? That still used to mine or did mine at one point in time, and now there's no use for it because Ethereum, is doing its thing, and they're not getting the return on it, so they're selling it. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Budget builds and budget PCs are honestly so underrated, it's unbelievable. And that's kind of funny that you're touching on this, because this is one of the areas that we're going to try and move into as we continue our expansion in the industry here, is that, like, we call them budget bangers. Budget banger. That's right. Not anything crazy, but yet not anything cheap either. It's not China crap. It's not trash, but it's not, it's not wonderful either. It's okay. It'll
do.
Right, exactly. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Exactly. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy and all crazy colors and stuff like that. But what I'm thinking is like an MATX or an ITX board or something like that, which ITX boards is a little bit different because you got to be careful with those, because those can be stupid expensive for no reason.
Yeah.
You can really do it. I think you can do it for cheaper.
Oh, absolutely. It's I don't think there's anything really. There's no sites anywhere that does refurbished products that solely does refurbished stuff at normal prices, because obviously a lot of them overinflate the prices for a minute because of scalpers and stuff like that. But the good thing about PC building is once you've spent that 600 quid on making a PC and it runs the games and it does that, if you want to improve it, you don't have to buy a whole new PC. You can just upgrade bits by bit.
Yeah. And you can't really do that with a console. At least you didn't used to be able to. You can kinda sorta by like throwing an SSD in there. Congratulations. Good job, guys. You finally got rid of spinny drives. About 2006 called. That shit's been all right, whatever.
Welcome to Windows 95.
Right, yeah, seriously, man. Like, this is unbelievable. I remember Raptor drives. I had an array of those. Don't you worry, 90, what was it? 9200 RPMs? 94, something like that.
94.
94 is what it was. Yeah, those are sick. I think I still have one somewhere. Just as like a relic that you should like frame it and put it on a shelf. Use it as a bludgeoning device. Maybe that's what you do. You weld a handle into the middle of it and you use it as like Thor's hammer. I like it. Well, I think most of the people are now encouraged. That's my hopes. I'm hoping the people that are listening are encouraged to go build a PC. Find somebody that builds computers, right? And you'll find them. They'll be there. You'll know them. If you go up to somebody and say, "Oh, do you play computer games?" and they go, duh. You probably have found the right PC person, because they're going to give you some sort of, why is this console peasant talking to me, right? Which is a very sad side effect and toxic part of PC building. And I'm sorry, because Joe is right. There is like this gray area, like the gray shirt that I'm wearing here, right? AOE effects. Anyways, consoles have their place and their purpose. Okay, that's kind of like it's like the Dodge Neon of the computer world, right? It's not great, but man, it's got some good gas mileage, and it's gonna run and drive for a long time. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna run for the most part okay. And that's about it. That's not really fancy. You can't really do much to it to make it go faster. And when it's dead, you just go, well, we had a good run. That's fine, Whereas in this case, PCs can always be upgraded. And like I said, you find that person that does build those PCs, you ask them, hey, do you know anybody that's getting rid of some hardware? Guarantee you they'll go, no, but I bet you Johnny is. Or, no, but I bet you Catherine is. Or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Because, that's just the name of the game. Everybody has something somewhere, right? And if they're willing to get rid of it, they will. They'll sell it to you. And then that's how you can
sell it cheap as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, if somebody really wants my 760 that's been screwed to the wall for $50, hey man, I'll sell it to you. Whatever. It's got a water block on it, EK. So it still works. Fine. But you find those people, you get that budget PC together, you enjoy yourself, you have fun with games. Games do cost money, by the way, people. Don't just go pirate crap and think that it's all free and everything like that. Do yourself a favor and go buy it. If you really want to buy the game or play the game, go buy it. Pony up. Be a real person. Just like you would with any other console. If you were going to buy a console game, you'd still go to GameStop or whatever video game place, and you'd buy the disc, if you even still do that. I don't know. Do you still do that? Maybe that's not a thing anymore. I don't know. I don't think so. You digital download it through the store. See? Quick recovery.
You download it and then you wait another 4 hours for it to update.
Oh, right. Of course. Absolutely. And I'm sure the Microsoft servers or the PlayStation servers are super fast. Super fast, I'm sure. So, I think that's wonderful advice and sound advice from a veteran, a very knowledgeable veteran at that when it comes to hardware and PCs and building and everything like that. Now, that being said, what's next for you? What do you got going on? What's cooking? Good looking, huh? Besides that beard and it being beautiful, what else you got going on? I know you got this new thing, Shednanigans, first of all, which is amazing. So if you don't know, Gadget Joe built a shed, and he's doing Shednanigans in the shed. So, what is that all about?
Basically, I do all my reviews, all my stuff, everything in my house. I have done since I started, and got a lot of kids in the house and my wife. So I've just been doing it in corners and stuff. So I wanted to get a space in the garden to make myself a little workshop, a little shed, and I found one, and it was free, and it was built in 1944, and the condition was that we would go and take it down and move it. With it being built in 1944, it took ages to get it down. I've got it built back up in my garden, and it's had a lot of repairs. And I've just sort of done it with second-hand parts that I found and things that were free, and it's cost me £96 altogether to get myself a 18-foot by 9-foot workspace effectively now. It's got power in there, it's got everything in there, and like Kev said, I've got a new channel and it's called Shednanigans. It was going to be called loads of different names, but then someone said Shednanigans, and then someone said no, Shednanigans, which actually I prefer because I can guarantee I'd mess up saying Shednanigans over and over again. And it's the new channel is basically me making things. It's me. It's a fat Englishman in a shed making things and learning new tricks, and that's it. It's just easy watching. It's not screaming and shouting down the screen like PewDiePie and all that lot. And it's not fast paced. It's not. You can't watch it. It's too all over the place. It's not everything rammed down your throat. It's just me learning new things. I'm going to be doing builds on it. I'm going to be doing unboxing. Still going to be doing stuff with tech, but I want to learn how to do metalwork, welding and stuff like that. I want to expand on my previous woodworking skills. I want to start making custom stuff. I've got a 3D printer that I was gifted at Christmas, so I'm going to be building that. And it's all going to be like a dummy's guide of how to do things, because Canva dummy, and you get to watch me do it rather than you spending money. And so, and I'm just going to talk to people. So it's going to be me, get the camera, press record, build something, make something, and I'll talk to the camera about stuff as well, because I want to try and promote a lot towards mental health, which is something I mentioned earlier. But it's things are hard at the minute, with not just with me, but with everything in general, because the world's pretty crappy place at the moment. So I just want a place where you can come and get yourself a beer or a drink or something, or a bite to eat at the end of the day, and just stick it on. You might even be able to fall asleep to my voice. It's just whatever. It's just something that you can watch. It's easy to watch, and that's my new venture.
I love it. It's a DIY channel for everything. It's you learning how to do this, that, and the other, and sharing it with the lovely folks that are already a part of a great community, which is basically figuring out how to build stuff, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, and I want it to be interactive as well, so I want it to be a place where I get a bit, not so much get a following, but maybe so, but it's where people can comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
People can say, oh, that's a good idea, or you've done this wrong, or you do this right, and yeah, I'm going to mess up, because that's human nature, but I'm not going to hide it from anybody, and I want people to comment. I want people to be interactive, so I can talk about things. If someone's having a problem, even if it's someone having a problem, having a bit of a rubbish day, oh, this has happened, I just want to get it off my chest. Go ahead, put it in the comments. It's just because YouTube nowadays is a place where everyone wants millions of views and millions of subscribers and millions of this, and can make this and then go out and donate millions of pounds to people and all this lot. And it's hard to watch because I'm used to that. My kids watch it all the time, and it pummels my head in. So I just want I want a safe place where people can come and just do what they want and enjoy it and learn things as they go along, or laugh at me failing miserably.
Sometimes laughing at people's misery or their mistakes is sometimes part of the joy of YouTube. However, I do understand what you mean by, hearing these people that want hundreds of thousands of viewers and stuff like that. And honestly, we all want to strive to be that great, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't hurt anybody if you were making couple $1,000s a month off of YouTube stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, everybody that can do that, more power to them. However, that's honestly not a realistic aspect to take when you're talking about YouTube and trying to be like trying to make money off of it, putting it that way, especially when you're starting off and doing new things and new adventures like you are. But I think that that's a wonderful idea, especially because it's a place that you can go, that you can just hang out, Now, I don't know if you've thought about doing any sort of live stream with it or anything like that.
Yeah, I will be. I've got some internet. I've got the modems set up in there. I've just got some service to them because I can try and attach it to the house, but it's about the shed's about 70 foot away from the house. So even with the mesh systems, it doesn't really reach it very well.
Right.
Because of the insulation inside it, it just blocks it all out. So I've got another wireless modem, but I'm going to try and get it to set it up so that I can just do a weekly live stream or something like that. So even if it's a couple of hours, I'm just building something, just talking to people and doing that. I am still going to do the Gadget Joe stuff, obviously, but that's slowly transitioning into a written reviews more than anything, and then the channel will be to promoting builds and stuff like that, and mods, anything that I do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Shednanigans. I want to see some of the things that you end up doing because, not to say that America does it any better than anyone else, or the United States does it any better than anyone else, but I'm sure that when you go to measure something and you actually pull out imperial measurements and I go, ha, see, foot and inches. Those bastards, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can kind of joke back and forth and have a good time about that. And you'll get that interaction between, people that are not only overseas, but want to see what you do and how you do it differently than how we would here, and I think that's great. I think that's a wonderful place. I think it will be especially beneficial for those who need that mental help, to just that mental place to just go and calm down and chill out, just be at peace, right? I look at that beard and I go, man, I'm at peace. Tell you what. Well, Gadget Joe, I think that is a wonderful place for us to start the sign off here. Where can people find you, your glorious beard, and these Shednanigans that you're talking about?
Well, the Shednanigans page, obviously by the time this is up, it'll be up. It's being launched officially on YouTube tomorrow, March 10th. I've done it on my birthday, so that it's, I know, I can remember when I did it, basically.
Well, happy birthday, by the way.
Well, that's more for my age in mind. But it's being launched on 10th of March. The first video is just an intro. It's just me talking and explaining what's going on. And then I'm going to try and upload every week. But I'm going to be making a Facebook page, so I'll be doing that on that. But a lot of the time, I'll be mainly talking as Joe Campbell on the Facebook, which is where you'll be able to find me. And I'll a lot of my Gadget Joe stuff is shared on that, on Facebook. I do use Twitter occasionally. I'm still a bit of an old man with it. I don't really know how to work it properly. Instagram is all right. I do need to get back into it all, but YouTube is mainly the place to go, and hopefully Twitch as well if I can start streaming.
Perfect. Well, that sounds wonderful, and what I will do is make sure that we include those links in the description below and everything like that to your YouTube page. Again, Gadget Joe, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show. I cannot thank you enough, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And as always, if you guys ever want to catch up on this podcast or more, please check out ModMyMods.com. You can also find us on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on iTunes, on all of those other great places that you catch your podcast. I appreciate you all joining me for this segment of the Mod My Mods Meet the Modders podcast. Until next time, have yourself a wonderful rest of the day, night, weekend, afternoon, whatever it may be, and we'll catch you next time.